All right, just let us know. I think we're all set.
We can start.
Okay, are we live?
Yes.
Great. Hi there, folks. Thanks for joining us. I want to introduce our topic here, Agencies and Drupal Stronger Together. My colleague and I will be sharing with you learnings that we've gathered from agency leaders, our conversations with CTOs and people in sales and marketing at small, mid-size, and large agencies about the impact of COVID-19 on their business and about how agencies in Drupal can be stronger together as 2020 closes and we're moving into 2021. We wanted to introduce ourselves first. My name's Nathan Roach. I'm based in DC. I'm the marketing director here at Accelerant, and I'm here with my colleague Piyush.
Hi, this is Piyush Podar. I lead sales and partnerships at Accelerant, work with Nathan, and really look forward to speaking today.
So
I'm based out of Jaipur, India.
So our claim to fame here is that when we first started working together about, what now, Piyush, 6 years, I think.
About that time.
I was working in marketing, Piyush was working in sales, and together over these 5 to 6 years, we merged the sales and marketing team into a revenue team at Accelerant. We're a global agency of 120 employees and counting, spread across 6 countries. And when we came together to create the revenue team out of the sales and marketing departments at Accelerant, we started traveling around together, different agency events and Drupal events all over the world, different continents. And together we recreated how it is we do marketing and sales here at the agency. And maybe you recognize this. I'm sure several of you here have attended our collaborations in the past. Drupal's a great place to bring people together. And before COVID, we were doing a lot of in-person events all over the place. Piyush has hosted agency leaders dinners at many, many locations: Seattle, London, Auckland, Boston, Portland, in Canberra. So maybe you've attended one of these dinners in the past, usually at the end of a camp. And we often host with Michelle Van Velde, who does the Drupal Agency CEO Network. These are a few photos from those times from around the world. Maybe you're actually in one of these photos. But since then, since COVID hit, we've had to move to a completely digital framework like everybody else, digital events and roundtables. And Piyush has been managing a lot of those.
That's right. Nathan, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, and then as Nathan was saying, we haven't stopped there. So we've continued doing these in a virtual format. So far, I think we've done 4, but the conversations are, continuing. We've done in DrupalCon, Drupal Gov Australia. We did one in DrupalCon Global, and looking forward to organize the next one in London, probably in a couple of months from now.
Right.
So
the main purpose is just us getting together and learning from the experiences of other agency movers and shakers in the ecosystem.
That's right. And the reason why we are sharing this is also to, give some background in terms of like why we should be talking about agencies and what they think and what we think about the ecosystem on the whole. So, we've been speaking a lot together. We've heard a lot. We've shared a lot. And Nathan will talk a bit about in the next slide.
Right, and what's in this presentation is really a compilation of 2 different things. The first is interactions with agencies around the world, with some of our customers hosting these kinds of events, and also public sources. So the Drupal events we've already discussed, the agency leaders roundtables, but also we've been into conversations with agency peers with a podcast, Humans Behind Digital Experiences, involvement with the American Marketing Association, and then just monthly syncs with other agency leaders and CEOs, co-marketing and co-selling together. A lot of this information is coming out of those conversations, along with public sources like the 2020 State of Digital Industry report from BIMA, This was published in September, and we're presenting some of that information here. They're a network of digital and tech thought leaders out of the UK, and they started collecting information on the impact of COVID-19 on the agency space starting in March. We also have included information from Upplers, which is a COVID-19 impact survey that covered 130 agencies, with 50% of those responders being CEOs across small, mid-size, and large agencies from around the world. And not included in this presentation, but it's highly recommended, is the State of Drupal Business Survey results presentation by Jana and Michelle, who will be presenting these results at 7 p.m. Here, and I've included that date. It's today. It looks like in the Barcelona room, where Jana and Michelle will be hosting sort of a virtual cocktail hour discussing the results of that survey that they put out earlier this year. So let's kick this off. When COVID-19 started, we did two things that every agency did. We looked at our people and we looked at our customers starting in March. And first we started with our people, of course. How is everyone doing? Are you staying safe? We created Slack channels to stay in constant communication, retrospected on our benefits, pledging our reserves to support our team through this time, really hoping for the best and planning for the worst. This is something that all agencies around the world did when COVID kicked off. And we also turned to our customers, checking in first. Are they doing all right? Taking in that feedback and ensuring that that we were looking at the impact that COVID would likely have on their end customers. Piyush, do you want to speak a little more?
That's right. Yeah, all customers, current customers, people that we've worked in the past, and this gave us an opportunity to initiate conversation, understand, what's happening in their world, the situations they are working in, how are they coping, what challenges are they facing, and so on and so forth. And besides doing that, we also obviously extended our support in all possible ways as needed, whether it's resources, providing flexibility with our contracts, engagement models, or remote mentoring, something that we love doing, and having run a company for almost 7 years now, which is fully distributed. We feel that we've cracked a few things while running a successful remote mentoring. So we've offered that as as a gesture of helping all of our customers.
And the difference is really our customer base are agencies like the ones that you can see here, right, Piyush?
That's right. That's right. Just a few of them. There are many, many more here. The idea is that besides being an agency ourselves, this kind of has given us the unique vantage point to be able to understand and comprehend the ecosystem a bit more, and then be able to share some of these analysis that we are presenting here as part of these slides.
Great. So what have we really gathered here? Well, generally, I think the main point is that in the agency space post-COVID, scale really does matter. And the research out of BIMA has reflected the same thing, that larger agencies, they're managing, and we see larger agencies as 10 million in revenue and above. Mid-size seems to be a coin toss in terms of the impact on their end customers, depending on what industry these end customers are in. And then smaller agencies, what we've found and what we've heard from customers as well, they are suffering. We see this as the main impact of COVID-19 is on the smaller agencies, and many attendees here, perhaps you run smaller agencies yourselves, and Drupal is an ecosystem, a huge network of many small agencies that are making between 500,000 and 1 million yearly. And the impact on small, medium, and large has been, of course, on revenue. There's been an increased dependency on current customers. One client going down is enough sometimes to fold an entire smaller agency and certainly impact the bottom line for a mid-size agency. And we all know here the implications of COVID in terms of losing a customer or having to downscale that relationship because of impact that the end customer has received. And operations and delivery has taken a hit because, of course, we were moving from in-office collaborations to completely an out-of-office transition. The impact on employees and their families, unfortunately, people being laid off or being furloughed, revenue and ops have taken a huge hit. And according to the surveys that we've been we've been reading and the conversations that we've been having, agencies are having to be a lot more flexible. They're having to reduce rates. They're having to offer changes in their contracts. And almost 30 to 50% have experienced some kind of service change or adjustment, according to some of this research. And generally, the 25 to 100 employee range, they've had to offer the most flexibility and change in conditions as compared to agencies of a larger size. So agency rates have been reduced, and this isn't expected to change anytime soon. The impact on the bottom line, 9% of agencies say that their total revenue dropped by half because of COVID-19. And a quarter say that revenue has dropped between 30 and 50%. 32 say revenue has dropped by less than 30%. So there are some things to think about during this time of change in terms of rates and the way services are being offered.
That's right. And, really things that, we should be looking at and trying, ponder on are, would you really do those things? Like, are you ready to discount, or are there, other ways of supporting your customers? Maybe having flexible contracts, maybe having, similar flexible payment terms, or something else. It's not always price that could drive these decisions. So again, that calls for more conversations and being more open, and hopefully the customer as well to understand that. Questions like things like, who are you focusing on, and think about your key customers, right? Are you trying to expand and just get more customers and more business these times, or should you rather be more laser focused on the top tier 1, tier 2 customers? These are people who have shared kind of common growth goals as yours, and a strong relationship with you. Help them grow, and alongside grow as well. How's the experience you're delivering to your customers? The whole CX thing. Do you need to make any changes there? Enter this new department, so-called customer success, which is more common in the SaaS ecosystem. But we've started seeing this in the services as well, which actually takes us to the third point, which is how are your sales and marketing and customer success teams? So customer success, by the way, also people refer to them as account management, although the fundamentals kind of slightly change based on what you call them and how you structure them. But are you still having these three people, or three different departments looking in three different directions, and not very well aligned, both in terms of goals and strategies, and even KPIs for that matter? At Accelerant, we've tried to marry them together. Yes, marry these three people together as part of a revenue team, having some sort of a common goals and common KPIs. And we often have these regular cadence of these people talking together. So all of this, brings us with a common agenda, which is sustaining and thriving in this current times. Now, let's talk a bit about these unpopular opinion, which we've all been aware of, right? Ecosystem was anyways moving in this cost-cutting, strategic value upscaling direction before COVID-19. There have been innovations around low-code, no-code solutions. I would like to code, products like site cohesion, Acquia cohesion, commoditization, personalization systems. So really, these are the things we need to think about when we say, when we are looking at the challenges that these agencies are facing.
A lot of these changes were happening anyways. COVID-19 really accelerated the necessity for focus.
That's right. And a few more data points, very interesting ones. Again, this particular is something that we have bought from Uplers. Kind of interesting. So it says, about 64% of agencies that were surveyed are changing their marketing strategy. About 56% are doing more outbound activities. Now we can understand why, because you're not out there on the road meeting your customers. There are no events happening. It's all virtual. So probably you need to do more to be able to at least hit your minimum targets in terms of lead gen or business, closures or whatever. But the next data point, which is 44% are launching new services, is kind of interesting and to me a bit scary as well. Is this something you should do at this time, right? I mean, experiment with things and not focusing on what you already have, got successful services going on. So really, it's all about finding customers and differently, which may not be the same as finding the right customers. And if you don't find the right customers or can't implement solutions you're confident with, short term may end up too short for you. So change for the sake of changing, or changing because someone else in your industry is doing that, others are doing it. I think that's not the right approach. Invest in the marketplace, understand your customer more, get into more deeper relationships, and specialization, think strategy, things your UVP, the unique value proposition, something that Nathan loves to talk about.
Right. So when we talk about a unique value proposition and isolating it, this is what we've seen many agencies attempt to do during this time in order to double down on what they know they can deliver value with. And typically this sort of UVP Venn diagram exercise, it's usually deployed in marketing in order to isolate the right message, right? When you're looking to isolate a message that you take out into the marketplace, you want to make sure that that unique value proposition is clearly understood so that you can differentiate from your competition. But this kind of an exercise for marketing should reflect an internal reality at the agency that you run. There is an overlap between what customers want and what you do well, right? It's isolating what that is outside of what your competitors do well. Secondarily, there is something called Me Too value. You can see this in the middle of the Venn diagram, and that's something that you do well, your customers do well, and that your target customers want. Rather, your competitors also do this well. You have to be able to drive both the unique value that your agency can bring. Consider something like a blue ocean strategy, something that you know well, and the value that you deliver is truly unique, coupled with what you can also say, yes, us too, we also do this, like our competition. Isolating these two things are very, very important, not just in messaging, but in terms of the way you're strategically determining what your agency should be doubling down on during this time of COVID. Okay. So besides isolating this value, COVID has really brought about a change in perspective towards for a lot of agencies. The ecosystem, it may not grow stronger with a zero-sum game in this time. Agencies can be collaborative, and they can collaborate to bring about better outcomes. And we found that agency decision makers, they often don't see decision makers at other agencies as peers. They see them as competition until there's some kind of a breakthrough, like you go to an agency leaders dinner, or you're taking part in some kind of a conversation, and you recognize that there could in fact be shared value in what your quote unquote competitors offer and what you offer in terms of complementary services. This is a mindset change which is certainly beneficial now, because as you look to grow your revenue during COVID, going in together collaboratively to deliver that value, it's something that you should be considering. And operations, of course, this has changed because now we're no longer localized. And oftentimes there was a sentiment that talent that you couldn't speak with or see in office, that you weren't able to really work with them or trust them or hire them, certainly not. But now COVID has changed. So I think mindsets are evolving as well. And we've heard this from our customers, and we've seen this in the survey results from sources like Upler's and Bima.
Right. The other point I'd like to talk a bit about here is outsourcing or working with external partners, um, which we have experienced based on these conversations. And, these data points from these surveys kind of indicate that has become more relevant now than ever. And, we picked up something from Deloitte's 2020 Global Outsourcing Survey, which says, and I'll quote it verbatim, physical co-location of people and resources is necessary to develop a trusting relationship in the workplace has become irrelevant. This thought has become irrelevant because boundaries have melted. It's all virtual. Your team is not working together in the same office. Everyone's working from a different location, at least a different house or a different room. Doesn't matter, if you, this is a good time to experiment with and explore working with, more external partners, provided they add value and are, fitting into your grand scheme of things there. Another interesting data point from Upler's says 9% of the 9% of the agencies who were surveyed said they will explore outsourcing now post COVID. 15% say they will increase their exposure to outsourcing, and 56% says that they said that they will continue outsourcing, meaning they found real value here, meaning they felt that this is bringing them, that additional sort of a competitive advantage over their competition, and they would like to continue. They see this as part of their strategy. Um, so really, and what we strongly encourage, and I'm sure everyone would be, keeping in mind, is that this is not recommending replacing your team or your employees at all. It's basically extending them, scaling your capabilities, and filling in the gaps so that you are able to deliver more or deliver what you're supposed to with less. Quickly touch upon the next point, which is pursuing bigger opportunities together. As Nathan did mention earlier, coming together now is the most important thing. um, we have to think about, what other opportunities are there that we can work on in a joint fashion. RFPs for maybe larger organizations. These are large public sector companies, or companies operating in bigger domains. They have, been looking at RFPs, but not restricting their capabilities. So, look for external partners, see if you can jointly work with them, and bring a larger value and qualify better for RFPs, or create a more compelling sort of a value for the tendering authorities. Things to think about again on that front, focusing on your case studies, work examples, solid validations. And we've worked on certain RFPs, and we say this from our experience at Accelerant. We've been lucky to have, some amazing partners, and working with them hand in hand, uh, we have been able to work on projects which probably either of us would not have been able to had we not partnered together. And again, some of them have been via RFP, some of them have been via direct opportunities, responses. So a few more things, like look at your local government procurement opportunities, join some of those platforms, and please improve your response quality, listen to the feedback and work on this. Something that we are still, trying to fix on our side, by the way. So yeah, based on these results, find a partner, fill significant gaps, uh, but try to work together. And now, yeah, I'll take it over, give it to Nathan.
Right. So what we want to do now is, based on the research that we've collected, is present some advice for small, mid-size, and large agencies during this time. So the first is for small agencies, and that's to remember that your time is precious. And Piyush touched on this a little bit, talking about RFPs. Are you sort of sitting on collateral feedback that you haven't implemented? Are your pitch decks, is your RFP response documentation, are you improving that? Because certainly now during COVID, time is money, and money often is running out. So make sure that you're qualifying, that you requalify these pitches, that you're taking constructive feedback from external sources, and and this is part of this overarching theme, collaborate with other agencies in the ecosystem to get feedback. There are non-competing agencies that can help you to make your pitches, make your RFP responses stronger. It's certainly something, if you're a small agency, you want to be taking advantage of now, because of the cost to the cost for opportunity is certainly increasing. And consider bringing in some structure and some process to make use of your team's time. There should be as little waste as possible. We spoke a bit about aligning sales and marketing so they're focused on a singular goal. This kind of alignment now is really important. If your sales and marketing team wasn't operating under a single in a single department as a revenue team before, certainly they should be now, to make sure that there isn't waste by siloed approaches to generating new business. And of course, look after your clients, both old and new. Invest in those relationships. Relationships are everything right now. They're going to pay off in the long run. Make sure that these are maintained. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Piyush, for small agencies here?
No, that's all right. I think spot on. And I'm just conscious of the time. I'm guessing we have about 4 minutes left, so I'll try to keep the next ones a bit quick. Advice for mid-sized agencies, again, in the range of about $1 million and $10 million revenue. Without the brand recognition of the larger agencies, it's essential that you use these opportunities to be extremely clear on your UVP and Me Too value, something that Nathan talked about. Nathan, you want to talk about the next one?
Sure. Now's the time to think about partnering with smaller or mid-size agencies to deliver the services that you can't deliver in-house right now, versus hiring and creating whole new teams. It's a good time to be filling gaps with the most qualified partner. And take a look at your marketing strategy to drive up pipeline, optimize networking channels. In-person events now are gone. So make sure that your sales and marketing teams are both aligned and supporting one another in this new virtual event ecosystem. And for large agencies, don't let your size and your resilience lull you into false security. You're one of the only sectors of the agency landscape that has the luxury of rethinking elements of your business and marketing strategy. This is definitely something that you should do. And don't assume that this delay is eventually going to open up. We really don't know how long this is going to last. And of course, there's good news on the horizon, of course, but we shouldn't assume the best. We should be preparing for the worst. And then reserve the urge to be proactive and over-deliver in unplanned areas, which is wasteful. Clients want you to deliver the scoped work as effectively as possible with no surprises and at a discounted rate, which is what they expect now.
That's right. So, kind of wrapping up with the last slide, which says you're not alone. There are dozens of similar agencies in Drupal ecosystem and the larger digital ecosystem. And especially in Drupal, year after year, we go to conferences with our competition. And there's this term that I absolutely love, which is co-opetition. So we still, do things together. We organize events. We attend those events, and some of these events and agency networks that we strongly encourage you look at and join if you haven't yet, and try to find these partners or these peers. Are things like DrupalCon agency roundtables. I'm not sure if one is happening this time, but they usually have one every DrupalCon. Local and global community networks. There's the Drupal Slack where you can go and connect with people. Agency Leaders Network, virtual socials. That's me and Nathan organizing, and few good friends in this ecosystem. Look out for the next one coming up in London, as I said, about March. Other agency forums like BIMA, Digital Agency Network, etc. Look for the one that is active in your geography. And last but not the least is the Drupal CEO Network, who runs the Drupal Business Survey. Michelle and Yana, and as Nathan mentioned initially, don't forget to join their Drupal CEO virtual drinks today at 7 p.m. CET. That's it. With that,
that's it. We wanted to share some of these findings, and both conversations and available public sources. If you have any questions about what we've presented, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you agree or disagree with any of the key points that we've presented from our conversations or finding, that would be awesome as well. And so please feel free to share your perspective if you have one here.
Yes, and if you feel free to reach out to me and Nathan, send your queries. Happy to get on calls and talk more about these things. And thank you for the poll. It's great to know that close to 48% of the attendees right now in this session are agency leaders, and a decent number of them are working at these agencies. So I hope we're able to explain the points well.
Right. Does anyone have any point that they'd like to raise? If you raise your hand, I believe that you are allowed to talk in this Zoom call. Okay. All right, great. Pierina, were there any questions from the panel, or are we all set here?
Tassos is asking if you could put the last session back on, the last slide, I'm sorry.
The last slide, okay. This one here?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is what it's all about. So, great.
Awesome.
Okay, anything else? Perfect. All right, well, thank you all. Thank you so much for coming. We hope you found some of this interesting, and definitely head over to the Drupal CEO Network Survey Reveal that's happening with Jana and Michelle. That's a continuation of this conversation that's sure to be interesting, as it's very specific to the Drupal agency ecosystem. So thanks again.
Thank you.